And in the right side, you see, I mean, our volunteers being called by Prime Minister Modi for a meeting to discuss how the evacuation was happening. And the news clip is about how Seva was involved with respect to evacuating 467 African students. So with this, I think my first part of the presentation is done, where I wanted to somehow showcase how our diaspora is doing a great work with respect to evacuations and in the disaster situation. So if any queries, I can take it now, or probably I will do the next part of the presentation, which is respect to our interventions in Uttarakhand, and then I can forward. Whatever is fine to you. Any specific questions, comments, or anything? So I assume that will be fine. So I will move on then. So these are the, roughly this is what we have profiled. What are the disasters where Seva International worked? This is the rough profile as to how we as an organization are fully involved in disasters operation. So you can see the reach. It has started from 1997 and we have worked even till the last, since I am working in Uttarakhand, I can say even the latest disaster in Joshimath also, we were there. This is the timeline from 1993 till 2023. This is the timeline of the major disaster and major interventions that, we have interfered. And now I would like to go through this particular action that Seva has taken in Uttarakhand. So I am not sure whether this point came up for a discussion in any of the session. This is the 10th year of since Kedarnath flood happened in Uttarakhand. So it is actually a 10th year, and it is the right time to do a stock take also as to what are the learnings we have had, what are the things that we have done. So Kedarnath disaster was one of the worst disasters that Uttarakhand has experienced, and almost all district had its effects. And you would remember, at least if not the students, the other people should be remembering the scenes of water going, under Rishikesh, Shiva's nose, till the nose getting covered, how Kedarnath temple got distracted. This is the level of destruction that happened. And this is when Seva International decided to go to these two particular districts of Chamoli and Rudraprayag, where the maximum disaster effect was there. And we thought we will go there and we will start our operations. And that is the story that I would want to present as to how and what we have done in these two districts. So this is the, as you can see from this particular graph, the right side graph actually indicates what our thought is. So we are into rehabilitation, and in this particular rehabilitation, we have three particular focus. One, community is always at the center, always at the base. We care for holistic development. It will not be incremental or piecemeal. It will be a holistic development. Third, we understood culture is a very important factor. Without actually being culturally sensitive, no kind of development is going to happen in the proper way. So these three are our major areas or major parameters based on which our projects are being developed, our rehabilitation work is being developed. So this is Chamoli's graph. This is where our interventions are happening in Chamoli. So if you can see in Chamoli district, we have divided our district into different clusters. That is for our administrative issue that we did it into different clusters, and in each of these clusters we have multiple activities, and you can see from the graph as to the kind of activities that is happening in Chamoli. And this is Rudraprayag. There also the same model. It has been divided into cluster. So in total, 2 districts, 10 clusters, and different kind of products. That is how our management happens. So I will run through what are the different scheme in which our rehabilitation was thought. One, we thought no rehabilitation program is going to sustain without community taking the ownership. And for that purpose, we initiated this particular vertical and with particular program called Seva Srujan. Its vision is for leadership development and its vision is for institution building. And under this particular vision, we have carried out multiple work, of which one of the major work is to build self-help groups, people who are aware of what self-help groups need not have any more explanation. So it is an all-woman group where savings and entrepreneurialism is everything is promoted. And till date, around 550 SSGs with roughly varying between 12 to 15 women. We have institutionalized around these 550 SSGs, and total savings in those SSGs come around 1.5 crore. And probably I can claim with all confidence Seva International will be the only organization which can say this data with full surety, because we are the only organization who collects monthly MIS to know where our beneficiaries or the community is going. So this is the stage at which we are running. We collectivized these SSGs into different federations where they are into different kind of production system. 8 federations has been established. And 1 farmer producer company also has been augmented. And rough sales value can be seen here. It is in the last 4 years around 45 lakhs has been achieved, and everything belongs to the community. Seva International, as I said, the thought is same. It is neither the seed nor the fruit, it is just the fertilizer. So this is the vision which we had for Seva Srujan. And under Seva Srujan, we also diversified the livelihood option, where we introduced knitting as a major occupation, and we had knitting production centers, training the women there on professional knitting, on product and design development training, helping them marketing all these products that they are being made. And specifically, if you, people in Uttarakhand will know about this community. There is a community called Bhotia community, and it is in the higher altitudes that community are there. They are into traditional weaving, and we are there also, doing the same kind of activity, expanding their livelihood by doing product and design development training, helping them forward and market linkage on wool craft production. So that is the range of works under Seva Srijan. And Seva Mahila Jyoti and Seva Yuva Jyoti by default are targeting women for empowerment and youth for empowerment. And under each of these vertical, our work is with respect to digital literacy, where we run computer courses, and these days computer courses doesn't make any sense. As a result, we have initiated digital literacy using mobile phones, where we have taught all the 500 SSG women how to use WhatsApp, how to use Google Pay. And I always keep taunting my staff, saying they always say they can't report anything in the WhatsApp, but I in the night see them uploading hundreds and thousands of reels. So that is some kind of achievement we feel. These people are empowered to do things in the mobile phone. That is something that we will take credit for. And second major work with respect to Seva International's rehabilitation is with respect to Seva Krishi, where our vision was to promote organic farming. And promoting organic farming will not be a hollow theme. We will support it through trainings, technology, and tool support, whichever is required. So under this, what we have done is multiple set of trainings has been done, multiple set of input support has been done with respect to tools, running a particular tool center fully owned by the community. Everything of that sort has been done. But the major impact that I could tell here is with respect to how the farmers, even before millet mission became a priority, have started producing millet-based products, and they are selling off these particular things. Other particular rehabilitation plan is with respect to Seva Swasthya. As indicated, it is about holistic health and well-being. Under that particular program, we run doorstep medical services with using mobile medical van. We provide doorstep diagnostic services using Arogya Mitras. It is a band of workers who are actually complementing the Ashas. So that is a work that is being done. And we have, again here also we tried to do some kind of institutionalization, where we formed something called a mutual health group. So the mutual health group consists of Ashas, A&M, Pradhan, and local leaders. And there we are focusing for the livelihood training. Seva Sahas is again a program related to disaster and adventure tourism. And there we have done first responder training. And the last one is with respect to Prava, where it is about spring shade management. And you can see that, this particular slide can be shared to you once it is done. So again, high point is one, Seva International was awarded as the SDG Goalkeeper 3 by the government of Uttarakhand. And you can see other slides also where Fuli Kotik is an event which is a very big platform. That platform of Seva International got acclaimed in particular C20's policy pack. Whoever is interested can, can reach me in this particular number and we can have that kind of discussion. I will just take 1-2 minutes and close it because this is happening in Uttarakhand and we are supposed to discuss something related to Himalayas also. So 2-3 things that I want to put here is what we thought, starting rather than focusing only on a state or district, whether it is time to focus on the Himalayan region as a whole itself, where we have we have a civilian body which have that kind of a mandate to think about Himalayan ecosystem in its entirety, because it is an ecosystem which needs to be dealt separately. So this is a thought that I would want to put, and that is where I wanted to introduce partnership for public purpose and collaborations. We are looking for those kind of partnership where we want to think about Indian Himalayan region in entirety, address everything holistically. Second, what we also want to put across is with respect to volunteer development, volunteer as a force for most of the things. There also we are having our own SOPs and everything of that sort, but whether volunteerism can be used for addressing the issues that is pertaining in Uttarakhand and in general in Himalayan region. This is also something I thought should be put across. And the last thing is with respect to having a landscape approach. Since we are in a discussion with respect to climate change and disaster, the experience that we had with respect to our Spring Shade program was, people were not very much happy when we are just going and doing a solid waste management program. So we had to introduce livelihood components to it. We had to introduce health components to it, where it could be something people also thought, yeah, this is something which is going to affect. So I thought this is a discussion point, at least in this conference, which should happen as to how to go about with respect to climate action. With this, I will close, and I took some more time. So thank you for your valuable time.
थैंक यू सर। इसमें एक चीज़ और जोड़ना चाहूँगा, क्योंकि ये डिजास्टर मैनेजमेंट के रिडक्शन की बात हो रही है। हम लोग बहुत कुछ कहते हैं, इकोसिस्टम बचाएं, एनवायरनमेंट बचाएं, लेकिन सबसे बड़ी आज जो प्रॉब्लम है वो है हमारा माइग्रेट। क्योंकि जब तक हम माइग्रेशन को ना रोकें तब तक हम कुछ नहीं कर सकते, क्योंकि 1000 and 1000 पीपल्स प्रत्येक डिस्ट्रिक्ट में, चाहे वो चमोली डिस्ट्रिक्ट की बात करें, चाहे वो पौड़ी डिस्ट्रिक्ट की बात करें, चाहे रुद्रप्रयाग की बात करें, चाहे चंपावत की बात करें, इतना माइग्रेशन हो चुका है कि वहाँ कुछ चीज़ प्रिजर्व करने के लिए है ही नहीं। जब प्रिजर्व ही नहीं हो रहा है तो फिर हम कैसे डिजास्टर मैनेजमेंट को कंट्रोल करेंगे। थैंक यू वेरी मच। होपफुली कि आप लोगों को जिन लोगों ने यहाँ पर अपना प्रेजेंटेशन दिया है उससे काफ़ी कुछ देखने को मिलेगा। इन्हीं शब्दों के साथ मैं इस सेशन को समाप्त करता हूँ। थैंक यू वेरी मच सर। Sorry sir, late.
So as chairperson of this session, I should conclude it, and a volunteer has told me to complete it within 50 seconds. I think I can just say thank you, okay? And the session was interesting, and you see, the Disaster Management Congress, it is being held here, and the appropriate presentation has been given. Great NGOs with a widespread activities, they have given presentations. It is very enlightening for me to have so many details of Rashtriya Seva Bharti and Seva International working in 45 countries. These two great organizations have given their presentations. Secondly, I want to say one thing. that such a big role they have played in the disaster management over a period of 40 years, 4 decades. I have been a part of Seva Bharati since 1975 onwards. I have seen the AP cyclone part, and till today, all the incidents which have, disasters which happened in India, we have been observing the role played by Seva Bharati and Seva International together. So, involving in disaster management at this scale, it is unimaginable, because it's not an organization which gets involved and can do all this kind of work. It needs a huge community participation. So motivating the community to get involved in such crisis is a big task, and we should understand the way they have built up the micro level organization, communities based organizations based on the service activities when the disasters were not happening. Wherever the disaster happens, a vulnerable section is involved there, and the Indian diaspora in India, 70 crores of the Indian population, it is prone to disasters. Such is the scale of the work to be done in India. So, to prepare the society for the next future things also, Ruchiji has spelled out the plans for to mitigate the losses which is going to happen, and the Rashtriya Seva Bharati has presented the thousands of activities, and the way it helped in working for these disasters. I think that you all get interested in trying to know more details about these organizations. And one thing I want to say, volunteerism works a lot. Society should be motivated. I know only in Andhra Pradesh cyclone, thousands of workers worked for 6 months. So we could cremate respectably 10,000 dead bodies at that time. You can imagine the level of things might have been at that time, the pandemics, the hygienic conditions, but we could do it just because we motivated the society to that level. So the motivation is the prime factor. For that, an attachment and some sort of adoption, some sort of feeling towards the society, a sense of duty should be instilled in the people. I think the future generations should be made aware of their duties towards this nation. I hope this presentation will definitely motivate us to work for such kind of causes which are in the interest of the people and who deserve a lot. Thank you.
जलवायु परिवर्तन और ग्लोबल वार्मिंग से होने वाली आपदाओं से जूझ रहा है, तो उनसे लड़ने के सही मार्ग को खोजने के लिए उत्तराखंड सरकार 6th वर्ल्ड कांग्रेस ऑफ डिजास्टर मैनेजमेंट का आयोजन कर रही है। आखिर आपदा से जूझना और उससे जीतना हमसे बेहतर कौन जानता है। नमस्कार, धन्यवाद। आदिकाल से उत्तराखंड की धरती
which is on food security and nutrition in emergency preparedness and response. I would really request all of you, those who are interested, to please stay on. I'm sorry for the delays in this session, but thanks for your patience.
विश्व को सही मार्ग दिखाती आ रही, कभी ऋषि मुनियों के ज्ञान से, कभी योग के प्रकाश से और कभी धर्म के विचार से। आज पूरा विश्व जलवायु परिवर्तन और ग्लोबल वार्मिंग से होने वाली आपदाओं से जूझ रहा है, तो उनसे लड़ने के सही मार्ग को खोजने के लिए उत्तराखंड सरकार 6th वर्ल्ड कांग्रेस ऑफ डिजास्टर मैनेजमेंट का आयोजन कर रही है। आखिर आपदा से जूझना और उससे जीतना हमसे बेहतर कौन जानता है। नमस्कार, धन्यवाद। आदिकाल से उत्तराखंड की धरती विश्व को सही मार्ग दिखाती आ रही। कभी ऋषि मुनियों के ज्ञान से, कभी योग के प्रकाश से और कभी धर्म के विचार से। आज पूरा विश्व जलवायु परिवर्तन और ग्लोबल वार्मिंग से होने वाली आपदाओं से जूझ रहा है। तो उनसे लड़ने के सही मार्ग को खोजने के लिए उत्तराखंड सरकार 6th वर्ल्ड कांग्रेस ऑफ डिजास्टर मैनेजमेंट का आयोजन कर रही है। आखिर आपदा से जूझना और उससे जीतना हमसे बेहतर कौन जानता है। नमस्कार, धन्यवाद। आदिकाल से उत्तराखंड की धरती विश्व को सही मार्ग दिखाती आ रही। कभी ऋषि मुनियों के ज्ञान से, कभी योग के प्रकाश से और कभी धर्म के विचार से। आज पूरा विश्व जलवायु परिवर्तन और ग्लोबल वार्मिंग से होने वाली आपदाओं से जूझ रहा है। तो उनसे लड़ने के सही मार्ग को खोजने के लिए उत्तराखंड सरकार 6th वर्ल्ड कांग्रेस ऑफ डिजास्टर मैनेजमेंट का आयोजन कर रही है।
नमस्कार,
आखिर आपदा से जूझना और उससे जीतना
मुख्य सेवक उत्तराखंड
हमसे बेहतर कौन जानता है।
और 6th वर्ल्ड कांग्रेस ऑन डिजास्टर मैनेजमेंट में सम्मिलित हों और आपदा प्रबंधन में भागीदार बने। नमस्कार, मैं हूं पुष्कर सिंह धामी, मुख्य सेवक उत्तराखंड। आइए और 6th वर्ल्ड कांग्रेस ऑन डिजास्टर मैनेजमेंट में सम्मिलित हों और आपदा प्रबंधन में भागीदार बने। नमस्कार, मैं हूं पुष्कर सिंह धामी, मुख्य सेवक उत्तराखंड। आइए और 6th वर्ल्ड कांग्रेस ऑन डिजास्टर मैनेजमेंट में सम्मिलित हों और आपदा प्रबंधन में भागीदार बने। नमस्कार, मैं हूं पुष्कर सिंह धामी, मुख्य सेवक उत्तराखंड। आइए और 6th वर्ल्ड कांग्रेस ऑन डिजास्टर मैनेजमेंट में सम्मिलित हों और आपदा प्रबंधन में भागीदार बने। नमस्कार, मैं हूं पुष्कर सिंह धामी, मुख्य सेवक उत्तराखंड। आइए और 6th वर्ल्ड कांग्रेस ऑन डिजास्टर मैनेजमेंट में सम्मिलित हों और आपदा प्रबंधन में भागीदार बने। नमस्कार, मैं हूं पुष्कर सिंह धामी, मुख्य सेवक उत्तराखंड। आइए और 6th वर्ल्ड कांग्रेस ऑन डिजास्टर मैनेजमेंट में सम्मिलित हों और आपदा प्रबंधन में भागीदार बने।
बेहतर कौन जानता है। नमस्कार, धन्यवाद। आदिकाल से उत्तराखंड की धरती विश्व को सही मार्ग दिखाती आ रही। कभी ऋषि मुनियों के ज्ञान से, कभी योग के प्रकाश से और कभी धर्म के विचार से। आज पूरा विश्व जलवायु परिवर्तन और ग्लोबल वार्मिंग से होने वाली आपदाओं से जूझ रहा है। तो उनसे लड़ने के सही मार्ग को खोजने के लिए उत्तराखंड सरकार 6th वर्ल्ड कांग्रेस ऑफ डिजास्टर मैनेजमेंट का आयोजन कर रही है। आखिर आपदा से जूझना और उससे जीतना हमसे बेहतर कौन जानता है। नमस्कार, धन्यवाद। आदिकाल से उत्तराखंड की धरती विश्व को सही मार्ग दिखाती आ रही। कभी ऋषि मुनियों के ज्ञान से, कभी योग के प्रकाश से और कभी धर्म के विचार से। आज पूरा विश्व जलवायु परिवर्तन और ग्लोबल वार्मिंग से होने वाली आपदाओं से जूझ रहा है। तो उनसे लड़ने के सही मार्ग को खोजने के लिए उत्तराखंड सरकार 6th वर्ल्ड कांग्रेस ऑफ डिजास्टर मैनेजमेंट का आयोजन कर रही है। आखिर आपदा से जूझना और उससे जीतना हमसे बेहतर कौन जानता है। नमस्कार, धन्यवाद। आदिकाल से उत्तराखंड की धरती विश्व को सही मार्ग दिखाती आ रही। कभी ऋषि मुनियों के ज्ञान से, कभी योग के प्रकाश से और कभी धर्म के विचार से। आज पूरा विश्व जलवायु परिवर्तन और ग्लोबल वार्मिंग से होने वाली आपदाओं से जूझ रहा है। तो उनसे लड़ने के सही मार्ग को खोजने के लिए उत्तराखंड सरकार 6th वर्ल्ड कांग्रेस ऑफ डिजास्टर मैनेजमेंट का।
मैं हूं पुष्कर सिंह धामी, मुख्य सेवक उत्तराखंड। आइए और 6th वर्ल्ड कांग्रेस ऑन डिजास्टर मैनेजमेंट में सम्मिलित हों और आपदा प्रबंधन में भागीदार बने। नमस्कार, मैं हूं पुष्कर सिंह धामी, मुख्य सेवक उत्तराखंड। आइए और 6th वर्ल्ड कांग्रेस ऑन डिजास्टर मैनेजमेंट में सम्मिलित हों और आपदा प्रबंधन में भागीदार बने। नमस्कार, मैं हूं पुष्कर सिंह धामी, मुख्य सेवक उत्तराखंड। आइए और 6th वर्ल्ड कांग्रेस ऑन डिजास्टर मैनेजमेंट में सम्मिलित हों और आपदा प्रबंधन में भागीदार बने। नमस्कार, मैं हूं पुष्कर सिंह धामी, मुख्य सेवक उत्तराखंड। आइए और 6th वर्ल्ड कांग्रेस ऑन डिजास्टर मैनेजमेंट में सम्मिलित हों और आपदा प्रबंधन में भागीदार बने। नमस्कार, मैं हूं पुष्कर सिंह धामी, मुख्य सेवक उत्तराखंड। आइए और 6th वर्ल्ड कांग्रेस ऑन डिजास्टर मैनेजमेंट में सम्मिलित हों और आपदा प्रबंधन में भागीदार बने। नमस्कार, मैं हूं पुष्कर सिंह धामी, मुख्य सेवक उत्तराखंड। आइए और 6th वर्ल्ड कांग्रेस ऑन डिजास्टर मैनेजमेंट में सम्मिलित हों और आपदा प्रबंधन में भागीदार बने। नमस्कार, मैं हूं पुष्कर सिंह धामी, मुख्य सेवक उत्तराखंड। आइए और 6th वर्ल्ड कांग्रेस ऑन डिजास्टर मैनेजमेंट में सम्मिलित हों और आपदा प्रबंधन में भागीदार बने। नमस्कार, मैं हूं पुष्कर सिंह धामी, मुख्य सेवक उत्तराखंड। आइए और 6th वर्ल्ड कांग्रेस ऑन डिजास्टर मैनेजमेंट में सम्मिलित हों और आपदा प्रबंधन में भागीदार बने। नमस्कार, मैं हूं पुष्कर सिंह धामी, मुख्य सेवक उत्तराखंड। आइए और 6th वर्ल्ड कांग्रेस ऑन डिजास्टर मैनेजमेंट में सम्मिलित हों और आपदा प्रबंधन में भागीदार बने। नमस्कार।
आखिर आपदा से जूझना और उससे जीतना हमसे बेहतर कौन जानता है। नमस्कार, धन्यवाद। आदिकाल से उत्तराखंड की धरती विश्व को सही मार्ग दिखाती आ रही। कभी ऋषि मुनियों के ज्ञान से, कभी योग के प्रकाश से और कभी धर्म के विचार से। आज पूरा विश्व जलवायु परिवर्तन और ग्लोबल वार्मिंग से होने वाली आपदाओं से जूझ रहा है। तो उनसे लड़ने के सही मार्ग को खोजने के लिए उत्तराखंड सरकार 6th वर्ल्ड कांग्रेस ऑफ डिजास्टर मैनेजमेंट का आयोजन कर रही है। आखिर आपदा से जूझना और उससे जीतना हमसे बेहतर कौन जानता है। नमस्कार, धन्यवाद। आदिकाल से उत्तराखंड की धरती विश्व को सही मार्ग दिखाती आ रही। कभी ऋषि मुनियों के ज्ञान से, कभी योग के प्रकाश से और कभी धर्म के विचार से। आज पूरा विश्व जलवायु परिवर्तन और ग्लोबल वार्मिंग से होने वाली आपदाओं से जूझ रहा है। तो उनसे लड़ने के सही मार्ग को खोजने के लिए उत्तराखंड सरकार 6th वर्ल्ड कांग्रेस ऑफ डिजास्टर मैनेजमेंट का आयोजन कर रही है। आखिर आपदा से जूझना और उससे जीतना हमसे बेहतर कौन जानता है। नमस्कार, धन्यवाद। आदिकाल से उत्तराखंड की धरती विश्व को सही मार्ग दिखाती आ रही। कभी ऋषि मुनियों के ज्ञान से, कभी योग के प्रकाश से और कभी धर्म के विचार से। आज पूरा विश्व जलवायु परिवर्तन और ग्लोबल वार्मिंग से होने वाली आपदाओं से जूझ रहा है। तो उनसे लड़ने के सही मार्ग को खोजने के लिए उत्तराखंड सरकार 6th वर्ल्ड कांग्रेस ऑफ डिजास्टर मैनेजमेंट का आयोजन कर रही है। आखिर आपदा से जूझना और उससे जीतना हमसे बेहतर कौन जानता है। नमस्कार, धन्यवाद। आदिकाल से उत्तराखंड की धरती विश्व को सही मार्ग दिखाती आ रही। कभी ऋषि मुनियों के ज्ञान से, कभी योग के प्रकाश से और कभी धर्म के विचार से। आज पूरा विश्व जलवायु परिवर्तन और ग्लोबल वार्मिंग से होने वाली आपदाओं से जूझ रहा है। तो उनसे लड़ने के सही मार्ग को खोजने के लिए उत्तराखंड सरकार 6th वर्ल्ड कांग्रेस ऑफ डिजास्टर मैनेजमेंट का आयोजन कर रही है। आखिर आपदा से जूझना और उससे जीतना हमसे बेहतर कौन जानता है। नमस्कार, धन्यवाद।
नमस्कार, मैं हूं पुष्कर सिंह धामी, मुख्य सेवक उत्तराखंड। आइए और 6th वर्ल्ड कांग्रेस ऑन डिजास्टर मैनेजमेंट में सम्मिलित हों और आपदा प्रबंधन में भागीदार बने। नमस्कार, मैं हूं पुष्कर सिंह धामी, मुख्य सेवक उत्तराखंड। आइए और 6th वर्ल्ड कांग्रेस ऑन डिजास्टर मैनेजमेंट में सम्मिलित हों और आपदा प्रबंधन में भागीदार बने। नमस्कार, मैं हूं पुष्कर सिंह धामी, मुख्य सेवक उत्तराखंड। आइए और 6th वर्ल्ड कांग्रेस ऑन डिजास्टर मैनेजमेंट में सम्मिलित हों और आपदा प्रबंधन में भागीदार बने। नमस्कार, मैं हूं पुष्कर सिंह धामी, मुख्य सेवक उत्तराखंड। आइए और 6th वर्ल्ड कांग्रेस ऑन डिजास्टर मैनेजमेंट में सम्मिलित हों और आपदा प्रबंधन में भागीदार बने। नमस्कार, मैं हूं पुष्कर सिंह धामी, मुख्य सेवक उत्तराखंड। आइए और 6th वर्ल्ड कांग्रेस ऑन डिजास्टर मैनेजमेंट में सम्मिलित हों और आपदा प्रबंधन में भागीदार बने। नमस्कार, मैं हूं पुष्कर सिंह धामी, मुख्य सेवक उत्तराखंड। आइए और 6th वर्ल्ड कांग्रेस ऑन डिजास्टर मैनेजमेंट में सम्मिलित हों और आपदा प्रबंधन में भागीदार बने।
आदिकाल से उत्तराखंड की धरती विश्व को सही मार्ग दिखाती आ रही। कभी ऋषि मुनियों के ज्ञान से, कभी योग के प्रकाश से और कभी धर्म के विचार से। आज पूरा विश्व जलवायु परिवर्तन और ग्लोबल वार्मिंग से होने वाली आपदाओं से जूझ रहा है। तो उनसे लड़ने के सही मार्ग को खोजने के लिए उत्तराखंड सरकार 6th वर्ल्ड कांग्रेस ऑफ डिजास्टर मैनेजमेंट का आयोजन कर रही है। आखिर आपदा से जूझना और उससे जीतना हमसे बेहतर कौन जानता है। नमस्कार, धन्यवाद। आदिकाल से उत्तराखंड की धरती विश्व को सही मार्ग दिखाती आ रही। कभी ऋषि मुनियों के ज्ञान से, कभी योग के प्रकाश से और कभी धर्म के विचार से। आज पूरा विश्व जलवायु परिवर्तन और ग्लोबल वार्मिंग से होने वाली आपदाओं से जूझ रहा है। तो उनसे लड़ने के सही मार्ग को खोजने के लिए उत्तराखंड सरकार 6th वर्ल्ड कांग्रेस ऑफ डिजास्टर मैनेजमेंट का आयोजन कर रही है। आखिर आपदा से जूझना और उससे जीतना हमसे बेहतर कौन जानता है। नमस्कार, धन्यवाद। आदिकाल से उत्तराखंड की धरती विश्व को सही मार्ग दिखाती आ रही। कभी ऋषि मुनियों के ज्ञान से, कभी योग के प्रकाश से और कभी धर्म के विचार से। आज पूरा विश्व जलवायु परिवर्तन और ग्लोबल वार्मिंग से होने वाली आपदाओं से जूझ रहा है, तो उनसे लड़ने के सही मार्ग को खोजने के लिए उत्तराखंड सरकार 6th वर्ल्ड कांग्रेस ऑफ डिजास्टर मैनेजमेंट का आयोजन कर रही है। आखिर आपदा से जूझना और उससे जीतना हमसे बेहतर कौन जानता है। नमस्कार, धन्यवाद। आदिकाल से उत्तराखंड की धरती विश्व को सही मार्ग दिखाती आ रही, कभी ऋषि मुनियों के ज्ञान से, कभी योग के प्रकाश से और कभी धर्म के विचार से। आज पूरा विश्व जलवायु परिवर्तन और ग्लोबल वार्मिंग से होने वाली आपदाओं से जूझ रहा है, तो उनसे लड़ने के सही मार्ग को खोजने के लिए उत्तराखंड सरकार 6th वर्ल्ड कांग्रेस ऑफ डिजास्टर मैनेजमेंट का आयोजन कर रही है। आखिर आपदा से जूझना और उससे जीतना हमसे बेहतर कौन जानता है। नमस्कार, धन्यवाद।
Informed of better solutions on how to prepare for such parameters. We also need to have quick response measures. For example, once the disaster hits, how quickly we can deploy the most important food and nutrition assistance is, of course, very important. But then also looking at the society as a whole, before the disaster hits, it's also important to make sure that the society has the resilience to be able to absorb certain shocks. And here, the role of the central government and the state governments come very, very critical to make sure that we have enough education to people to prepare for the disaster risks, and also to have a good social safety net in place so that people have the resilient livelihood in their hands. If I look at the WFP's work globally, we have been assisting people in emergencies all the time, and we do have certain expertise and know-how to how to come into the emergency situation and respond to people's food security and nutrition crisis. For example, WFP has this mechanism in place that we undertake emergency food security assessments. So, under the circumstances, what kind of segment of the population are affected by which ways, and what kind of assistance is needed, and how to bring in that kind of assistance in swiftly. We do a very rapid assessment together with the partners. Also, we do have a robust logistics, because often when we think about food and nutrition assistance, we may just think about how to bring in food, but then in order to bring in food, often we face an infrastructure challenge, especially if that is an emergency like a big earthquake or a big floods. Then the transportation routes are cut off, and then so the relief assistance cannot be delivered very quickly. So WFP also has a support mechanism to provide much needed logistical support. And then, of course, as we provide immediate food assistance, we always prioritize nutrition, especially for the ones who are most vulnerable, like children and women. Now, based on WFP's global expertise, as I just described, we have entered into a partnership, as Dr. Sushma already mentioned, with an NIDM during the COVID-19 period. And we had the honor to have, jointly develop this training guideline manual that we have just launched. And in here, the objective is really for us to be able to design a timely and context-specific food and nutrition relief, and to make sure that there is a solid strategy in place to provide much-needed response. We need to make sure that the functionaries and the frontline workers are also well equipped and well educated about how to understand the food security, how to analyze it, what kind of different measures we can deploy in place, what kind of tools are in place to be able to respond effectively. And with that spirit, we have managed to design this training manual together to be able to use by all the functionaries. So we are very, very glad that we have managed to launch this important tool today. And we also have a very distinguished panelists today. Therefore, without further ado, I'm very much looking forward to hear from everybody about this panel. Thank you very much once again for gathering.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for sharing your perspective on this sector. I also request Dr. Mahua Mukherjee, ma'am, to please join us on the dais. Ma'am is from IIT Roorkee. May I now request Vinod Menon, sir, who's the founder member of National Disaster Management Authority. Sir, we are happy you could join us here for his keynote address. Welcome, sir.
Good evening. I know it has been a very long day for all of you, but we are really grateful that we have the participation and presence of so many of you interested in a subject like food security and nutritional security, because this is actually something which is extremely important in a world which is actually facing disasters, climate change, extreme events, and conflicts. So we have seen the work of WFP in many disaster situations in many countries around the world, across continents. So we are really grateful for your leadership. The Nobel Peace winners, Nobel Peace Prize winners, the World Food Program, so I think, we must compliment you for the leadership which you have been doing in disasters, in conflicts, and also extreme events. So this whole question, we just finished this session on displacement, on tracking displacement, which is there because of disasters. So I think I will just make a very brief presentation. I really don't want to go into, sorry. Yeah. Okay. Go back. No. Wait. Don't remove that. Okay. That is a mouse. Where did that lead go? Yeah, okay. I think technology solutions, so technology solutions actually, we need to have the contingency plan, plan B, to make things work. We're looking at food and nutritional security in emergency preparedness and response. And I'm so happy that this is actually a session which is being organized by WFP in collaboration with the National Institute of Disaster Management. I was very happy to see the documents which have been prepared by the National Institute of Disaster Management in collaboration with the World Food Program on capacity building in the field of food security and nutritional security. And so we will actually go through this, looking at some of these problems from the point of view of communities at risk, which they have been facing in many parts of the world. And so how do we really look at addressing these problems in terms of emergency preparedness and response capabilities using technology, and also looking at the best practice solutions from around the world, which WFP has been institutionalizing with national governments. And with the government of India also, there has been an engagement where the food grain surplus in India has been also used in several disasters, in many disaster contexts. And I've had the pleasure and the privilege of having been trained by the WFP in the Joint Logistics Center in Brindisi in Italy. And I've seen also the work of WFP in disasters and use of technology solutions, telecommunication solutions, and also keeping in touch with many of the institutions and stakeholder groups. So we will basically be looking at food security and nutritional security, and look at multi-hazard risk, vulnerability and exposure, and support to disaster victims in fragile ecosystems around the world. Look at technology-enabled preparedness to address food and nutritional security, and changing context of food and nutritional security in the world today, and look at emergency preparedness and response, and look at WFP support to conflicts and also climate change-induced hydrometeorological disasters, floods and drought in different contexts, and also the refugees, displaced people and refugees, whether it is the Rohingya refugees from Myanmar, who have actually gone now to Cox's Bazar in Bangladesh, and so how the World Food Programme has been providing in support to the refugees, whether it is in Afghanistan, whether it is in Iraq, whether it is in South Sudan or Rwanda or Ethiopia or Madagascar. I think WFP has been in the forefront. I was very happy to see that the kind of efforts which are happening with monitoring the kind of displacement, whether it's by IOM or also by WFP, I think is very important that UN agencies are playing a very leading role. Now, if you really look at food security, it was actually defined in 1996 as
मार्ग दिखाती आ रही, कभी ऋषि मुनियों के ज्ञान से, कभी योग के प्रकाश से, और कभी धर्म के विचार से। आज पूरा विश्व जलवायु परिवर्तन और ग्लोबल वार्मिंग से होने वाली आपदाओं से जूझ रहा है, तो उनसे लड़ने के सही मार्ग को खोजने के लिए उत्तराखंड सरकार 6th वर्ल्ड कांग्रेस ऑफ डिजास्टर मैनेजमेंट का आयोजन कर रही है। आखिर आपदा से जूझना और उससे जीतना हमसे बेहतर कौन जानता है। नमस्कार, धन्यवाद। आदिकाल से उत्तराखंड की धरती विश्व को सही मार्ग दिखाती आ रही, कभी ऋषि मुनियों के ज्ञान से, कभी योग के प्रकाश से, और कभी धर्म के विचार से। आज पूरा विश्व जलवायु परिवर्तन और ग्लोबल वार्मिंग से होने वाली आपदाओं से जूझ रहा है, तो उनसे लड़ने के सही मार्ग को खोजने के लिए उत्तराखंड सरकार 6th वर्ल्ड कांग्रेस ऑफ डिजास्टर मैनेजमेंट का आयोजन कर रही है।
If you really look at food
आखिर
security and nutritional security in the world, we have looking at the issues of accessibility, availability, and also utilization. And I think it's very important for also to recognize that the availability and access to nutritious food is important. And we find that this is also related to adequacy in terms of calories needed, and care and feeding practices for nutrition of children, and sanitation and health care, routine immunization for children, because there are lots of vaccine preventable diseases, and we have the medical experts, Dr. Muzaffar Ahmed from the National Disaster Management Authority, who has been one of the leading public health practitioners, is here. And monitoring of nutrition levels to prevent stunting, because we have also had this question of data where the NFHS and all that have been talking about need to really look at malnutrition levels, and so this is very important. And use of millets, pulses, fruits and vegetables. We also have to really look at a smart agroforestry model where we are also able to look at better land use, increase food production, soil fertility, soil moisture and income increase in communities, and more water conservation, increase water levels and more rain, And also energy management, because energy is important also because we need energy for irrigation and also support agricultural practices. So clean energy and moving away from charcoal, biofuels, and also looking at electricity and new and renewable energy sources. So we need to really look at all this. And when you look at sustainable development goals, there is also a relationship of many of the sustainable development goals with the need for looking at addressing poverty and deprivation, malnutrition. These are all related actually. And so we really need to look at that whether it is a Sendai framework for disaster risk reduction, the Paris Agreement on climate change, or the Sustainable Development Goals, or the new urban agenda. All these 4 frameworks have got the time frame 2015 to 2030. And we are now in 2023, and in the midpoint of these 4 frameworks. So we really need to address these very important issues. And climate change adaptation, there are resilient practices from around the world, whether it is promotion of adaptive farming, vegetables, crop rotation patterns, diversification, securing land, low input farming, seed preservation, soil conservation, improving nutrition and food security, community-led urban gardening or kitchen gardens, and access to social protection programs, grain fund by communities, emergency funds and community savings, revolving funds for livelihoods, whether it is in Philippines, India, Nepal, Central America, whether it is in Costa Rica or Guatemala or Honduras. We see this kind of good practice examples. Cash support for livelihood diversification and employment generation with organic farming, kitchen gardens, and low input sustainable agriculture. What's having an acronym LISA, low input sustainable agriculture, which is very important that we need to promote that also. And essentially all these things should lead to empowerment of vulnerable sections, and that is where public awareness and also working with community groups and civil society organizations becomes very important. Policy analysis of critical gaps and solutions, problem solving through participatory consultations, public awareness, capacity building, and stakeholder engagement, consensus building through policy advocacy, conflict resolution, center staging communities in decision making, participatory planning, inclusive monitoring and evaluation, transparency and accountability. So I'm very happy that we have Mr. Ratnu, who is actually a person who has worked with communities at the grassroots level and then also brought in policy change, policy formulation at the national level in many areas. It's also closely associated with this initiative. And we have 194.6 million undernourished people in India, in children, pregnant women, and so we need to really look at improving that status of these people. So out of the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, I believe that Goal 17 on partnerships is most important, and that is where we all need to work together. We all need to also look at crowdsourced solutions, working with communities, working with grassroots organizations, and also whether it is disasters or climate change or extreme events or conflicts, we need to also involve communities and engage with communities. So if you look at a global food system, an alternative food system, we need to really look at which are those sustainable development goals which actually converge and cohesively look at solutions, and we need to really address those. And I was so happy to see these 2 NIDM products actually working with the need for looking at public health emergency management, and looking also at solutions in terms of understanding that health, nutrition, and food security, all these are related, and so we really need to really look at that. So in terms of addressing vulnerable sections, I would like to humbly submit that we need to really look at understanding who are the vulnerable sections. So there are different categories, and so I'm sure that all of you are familiar with that, but then we really need to look at differential vulnerabilities also, even in communities affected by disasters and climate change. So in terms of empowerment of these communities, there is also a lot of options and a lot of solutions, and so we all need to work together, and so I'm very happy with the kind of work which is actually happening. and the leadership which WFP is doing in terms of providing food security to communities at risk, whether it is from natural disasters, climate change, extreme events or conflicts, it's very, very important. So the recognition by the Nobel Peace Prize being awarded to the World Food Program is actually an indication of that kind of, thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. Thank you. Sorry?
Thank you so much, sir, for your valuable inputs and also harping on the need to not look at the SDGs in silos, and there's always an interlinkages, and also to make it more inclusive with the DRR aspects as well. Thank you, sir, once again. Now may I request Executive Director, National Institute of Disaster Management, who's going to chair our session, and we already have the panelists all on the dais here. So, sir, if you can start with your remarks and then chair the session. Yes, sir, please. So we also invite Dr. Gupta, sir, to join us.
It is always a challenge to speak after a legend like Professor Menon, but I'm a crisis manager, so I've been trained in last more than 2 decades to manage both human-induced and natural-induced crisis. So I'll try to manage. Eminent people, Nozomi Hashimoto, Professor Menon, Professor Gupta, Dr. Sushma Guleria, Animesh Prakashji, Professor Mahua Mukherjee, all the eminent dignitaries in this hall and all delegates. Very good evening to all of you. We have, NIDM has a very strong partnership with World Food Program, and today we are coming up with the 2 kind of documents. One is a module and another is a compilation of the stories. So while talking about the global level, the food security and concerns, what becomes, why it becomes so important at this juncture is that we have seen that after COVID, the 2022 report, World Food Security report shows that the number of malnourished people or the undernourished people in the globally has increased by 150 million from 828 in 2022 as compared to pre-pandemic period. And the drivers of this entire discourse when we talk at the global level are many. One driver is the increasing climate variabilities, which makes it very important to see that how we work towards this thing. Similarly, conflict and insecurities are increasing globally, as well as there are other economic drivers and other factors which make it very important that how the food production system, the distribution mechanism as well as consumption are getting affected. We have seen during COVID. I'll just talk about 2 or 3 major points. One is that how the resilience of the food supply chains and how the food supply chains get disrupted and the market gets distorted when a pandemic or a disaster comes. And whose food security are we talking about? It is the most vulnerable and marginalized people who in normal times are not able to afford the food. And at that juncture, it becomes very, very difficult for the people who are at the margin of the society to have affordability and accessibility to adequate nutrition as per requirement of this thing. So we find that in the underprivileged countries, in the least developed countries, developing countries, the sections which are already vulnerable and were struggling with the nutrition, they slip down. The years of your effort goes waste because you're trying to bring down the malnourished children out of that malnourishment. And in each of our Anganwadi workers in India, for example, they have gradation. As a collector, I very meticulously used to monitor the this status, and we try that how we can give supplementary nutrition, how we can give micronutrient to see that our children come out of that malnourishment. But one event just again takes them down the ladder. So this becomes a snake and ladder kind of game. The disaster play that kind of role. Coming down to the food production system, I think Professor Menon has very rightly told that we have to think about not only the food production and supply chains, but also about our food consumption system. Our consumption basket is very skewed. And one thing I have come to understand is that the linkages between the planetary health and people's health is not very different. What is the way we have learned to grow our food, the way we have developed our food production system has done an immense damage to our planet as well as people's health. Who is benefiting? It's a pharma company who's benefiting. You have more monoculture crop, you have more processed food, you have more more and more one kind of production system which is starch based or white sugar based, etc. So I think we have to somewhere see that we have to reimagine, and the answer lies again in the nature. I mean, we as human being, as a species, we have evolved over millennia to have been consuming a very different kind of food, a lot of fruits, vegetables in raw forms, as well as a very minimal amount of cooked food. Over millennia, we have totally switched over to more cooked foods, more processed foods, and that is where actually we are getting affected, and that is where our food systems and our soils are getting affected. We have so many engineers, we have so many soil engineers, but my dear friends, we have killed our real engineers. You may ask who? Our real engineers are the microorganisms in our soils, our earthworms in the soils, and today we find that due to excessive use of the fertilizers, chemicals, on one side the farmers' input costs are increasing, prices of foods are going up, on other side our soils are degrading beyond repair. We are into a massive crisis. We are slowly walking towards that. Many of the civilizations, we have learned that Mesopotamian civilization had got totally wiped out because of the degradation in their soil. And I think this planet, if there is a one single region that humanity will be vanished from this planet, is, if we do not wake, is of course climate change, and its one corollary, that is the health of the soil. And health of the soil, it is not a rocket science. We have to just unlearn some certain things which have been taught to us and to relearn the way our forefathers have done the farming, and maybe we have to bring about some changes in our behaviors in terms of our food basket, so the aggregated food behavioral change will trigger a different kind of cropping pattern. And I'm sure that, so like agroforestry or the permaculture, which is mimicking of the forest in the agriculture fields, we have to see that how multi-layered farming can be reimagined and planned, so that there is a microclimate in the farmer's agriculture field is rejuvenated, and this will become a biggest mitigation for the floods. You will see how the farming system is going to prevent floods. Yes, because when there are earthworms in the soil, when there is a humus, and when there is a more carbon content in the soil, it becomes a biggest cushion for taking the rainwater there. So depletion of the rainwater from the ground, as well as rejuvenating the soil, reimagining the food production system and the way we consume the system. So in a way, farmers' fields have to one day become the pharmacies, the kitchens have to become clinics, and the food has to become the medicine. And that is how I think we can heal, and there is a more equity and more more just distribution of the resources. There is no dearth of food in the world. It is only skewed distribution of food which is hampering. So we do not need to produce that much of food as we are telling. We have to intensify. We need more food. I think it is a misnomer. Neither we need that much of agriculture, nor we need the amount of chemicals and fertilizers that we are putting into soil, nor we need the amount of food that actually ordinary American or a Western person is consuming. And therefore it also becomes a question to debate and discuss that the nutritional standards which have been evolved globally, they need to be also relooked at, because there are different racial features. There are people from different races have their different heights, weights, and body mass indexes. When you have a global standards, I think sometime India is put into poor light. आपका malnutrition बहुत ज़्यादा है. I often say that I have a Shih Tzu dog, and if my wife always says that no, you are not feeding it properly, बहुत छोटा रह गया, I always try to say, भाई, it can't be like a Alsatian or a German Shepherd. Its breed is different, so it will be different. So similarly, the food standards, FAO and World Food Program also need to understand that the racial differences globally also have to be factored in when we are, evolving the criteria and the standards for the nutrition and malnutrition. With that, I think we have to create in normal time more inclusive and empowered societies, and so that the microfinancing and savings of people becomes the biggest cushion to have a food security in the difficult time, and to work along entire chain of the food production to the distribution, so that we have more just production, more just distribution, and more just consumption, so that we have more equitable society where nobody goes hungry and nobody is overfed also. Thank you very much.
So in fact, this very important theme, and this theme has been always important. When our food production was relatively very less, then also this theme was important. Now we have reached to a quite, we can say that, a reliance, good level of self-reliance, and now we are in a position that where we are exporting. That is also reliance. So we are able to support the people outside, various kind of food products. And now the entire system of food is also undergoing a lot of change. But then also the theme of food and nutrition remains important. So what is changing? I think that is important. To some extent, Professor Menon Saab and Ratnu Saab and Nozomi, they touched upon certain very critical dimensions. Now in India, we find two major thought process. On one hand, we say that we have achieved a great level of food security. Yes, doubting would be, I think, would not be appropriate. But what remains a big challenge? We are not free from challenges. So there are new layer of challenges. Now the next challenge is that nutritional security. And the resilient cycle of food management. I think that is emerging as a major issue. And that resilient cycle of food management is a critical aspect for food and nutritional supply during emergencies as well. So there are two dimensions. One is that how the food and nutrition sectors are affected by disasters is one. And then when a disaster strikes, how are we able to mobilize an appropriate level, appropriate quantity per person, an appropriate kind of food ingredients, appropriate packaging also, like what temperature and what is the longevity, how much time it will not perish, what distance it has to be taken, and once it is distributed, at what time the people are going to consume it. See, if the person has not eaten for past 2 days, you give him, he will eat it immediately. But when he is getting a regular, maybe breakfast and the afternoon meals and the evening meals, then maybe he doesn't want to eat it immediately. So there are new dimensions are also emerging. But then again, we will have to look at the geographical landscape of the country. As ED and IDM Ratnusa was also referring to, the different people, different food requirements. We have seen during COVID, I recall my younger brother is doctor, and when people, migrant laborers were moving to their villages, driving on bicycle or the manual rickshaw for 400, 500 kilometers, and then camping at various places. And I asked that whether it will lead to a major spread in the villages. He told, Bhaiya, when a person can drive without food 500 kilometers, what COVID will do that? So it is also kind of, Professor Joshi was referring to inherent vulnerability, so it is an inherent immunity also, so inherent strength also. So many times there are people who eat a lot, but they will appear very thin, and many times we will consider them that they malnutrient. They are not getting food. So what are the factors that are influencing their health? On the other hand, you will find people who are eating very less, and they will appear like me also. So, and that will matter in food and nutritional security during emergencies as well. We have also the cases where infrastructure related with food has been affected during disasters. If we look back and look at the cyclone Fani, the FCI go-downs were affected by the floods that usually most of the time that follows any major cyclones, and even the seeds and the food, the grains, they got germinated. So those were not available for distribution, so that PDA system was also affected, and even the seeds, supply of seeds were also affected to the farmers for the next sowing season. So just few examples, but many such examples can be seen. In mountains, even a single incident of a fog for maybe for a week period can affect the entire food supply chain. In Jammu Kashmir highway, when there is either a landslide or fog, it make a huge amount of fruit products get perished. So that is not only the economic loss, that's surely an economic loss, a business loss, but that is also the loss of food security, that those apples are going to be fed to the stomach of some people. And then the vulnerability will also relate to the age groups, the gender, and many other dimensions, including the occupationals. I think in India, occupational dimensions are rarely touched. Even we have started talking about gender dimensions, but occupational dimensions we have rarely touched in any of the dimensions, including in the food and nutritional security. So I think these aspects has to be, these are the new and important dimensions we will have to start looking when we talk about the food and nutritional securities. In the countries in transition, where we think that we have already achieved a good level of food security, but still we find that in certain pockets there are children with stunted growth. Many times the food is available, the behavioral dimension, the ED and IDM many times focus on behavioral dimensions. The food is available, the children doesn't eat, and the family doesn't teach them that they should eat, what kind of food they should eat, what kind of hygienic things that has to be maintained. After cooking, what has to be done? And second thing, now come back before the table. Many times we discuss after the product is ready, after the production of the agricultural, before farming, we talk about the drought, that how it affects your crop production. The major loss to the food stuff in India is post-harvest. Now, past 5-7 years, country is taking this dimension very, very seriously, the post-harvest losses. And now the ICR and many other institutions and the Agriculture Ministry and other ministries, including FCI, Food Corporation of India, are discussing that how the post-harvest losses can be reduced. Then again, the food waste. On one hand, we find that people don't find food, or people don't know that how do consume nutritional, maintain nutritional value, but there is also the challenge of food wastage. So I think it requires in-depth research and a lot of more case studies required, including on behavioral dimensions, including the social dimensions, including the kind of the awareness and teaching has to be given to our children, our women community. For example, the difference in nutritional requirement of the lactating women or the pregnant women to the normal and then ailing people. I think these are the important dimensions. So food resilience and sustainability has to be seen in a holistic way. And the last point that is I will touch, that something that is very inevitable. As we are growing in numbers, our lifestyle is also changing. So our entire food thought process is changing. Now earlier when we used to think about food, so maybe some reason people will think about the sarson, saag and makke di roti. Some place somebody will think about the idli and sambar. Some places somebody will think about the rice and dal. But now the new generations are thinking about different kind of foods. None of these foods. And that is inevitable. Whatever you say that no, what is correct, what is not correct with the food system is changing. And this is the period of the processed food. That advertisement also comes in television, processed food ka zamana aaya. So like that. So when the entire food system on the farm, off the farm is changing, basically a new cycle is emerging. And that we will have to see for the food and nutritional the security, and then country-wide different. The food security challenges of Liberia, food security challenges of India would be different. Maybe Nepal it is different. In India, one state to other state, and within the state, if larger states, the things will be different. Basically, we'll have to see in those contexts. So there are new topics that are emerging on food and nutritional security, and we'll have to work, and we'll have to involve more researchers, and then local level the insights, local level experiences as well. So thank you very much for this opportunity to share some.
Thank you for inviting us here. I have a short message from Reliance Foundation, which I'll read verbatim here. Good evening. At the outset, I want to thank the WCDM platform, NIDM and WFP for inviting. Yeah, I hope I'm audible. For inviting Reliance Foundation to speak in this August forum. Reliance Foundation is one of the leading corporate foundations in India, with its strong commitment to support communities affected by disasters and climate change. Since 2013, Reliance Foundation, through its disaster preparedness and humanitarian response work, has reached more than 60 lakh people across India. And as I speak, our team is currently deployed in some of the remotest districts of Sikkim, providing life-saving humanitarian assistance to people affected by the recent GLOF event. Our assistance in the current phase is targeted to support disaster-affected communities prepare for the severe winter ahead. In these times of climate crisis, reaching the goal of zero hunger by 2030 will be difficult without a robust disaster preparedness strategy that integrates food and nutritional security on one hand and adaptation to climate change for sustainable food production on the other. And in this context, there couldn't have been a more relevant session but on food and nutritional security in emergency preparedness and response. Thanks to the organizers once again for convening this platform. In last few years, India has consistently found its place in the top 10 countries in Global Climate Risk Index. And the last I read, I think it was 7th in 2021. As a matter of fact, India homes largest number of people exposed to climate risks and disasters. And I recollect findings of Economic Survey of India 2017-18, which estimated that with 1 degree rise in the temperature, farmers in the unirrigated areas could lose 20 to 25% of their income. Needless to say, the connect between climate change, agrarian crisis, and food security is strong and obvious. We all know about the perils of climate change through our own lived experiences. As the extreme weather events and disasters have increased many folds in the country in the recent years. In this forum, I would rather like to highlight the positives in our collective pursuit of climate resilience as a country. India is now also ranked amongst top 5 countries in 2023 Climate Change Performance Index. This is a testimony of India's promising commitment on climate goals at the highest level. India is on a set course of achieving land degradation neutrality by 2030 and create a carbon sink of 2.5 billion tons. Introduction of green bonds last year signifies our attention to drive in development through climate inclusive actions. COVID was a difficult time for all of us, but we have witnessed how the most vulnerable and marginalized families were protected against the food crisis through its robust food safety net. The social protection schemes were quickly adapted to extend life-saving humanitarian assistance at a massive scale in the country. Food security and nutrition in emergencies is a very complex and scientific domain, and it is definitely much more than just distribution of cooked food and dry ration. WFP's manual on the food basket, prepared for different states of India, carefully factors the micronutrient needs. It has personally guided me in designing a nutrition-sensitive humanitarian response in past. Similarly, the technical depth NIDM has brought in this sector through their modules and publication is commendable. At Reliance Foundation, we step up to support disaster-affected communities with immediate relief, but more importantly, our work is focused towards long-term adaptation, mitigation, and community resilience. With our big volunteer base, we bring the capacity to support timely and effective response at scale. We are also working on climate advisories, early warning, and supporting local ecosystems in improving access to social safety nets and other government schemes. Through our past work, we can also modestly claim some success in bringing rural transformation in our target villages through climate-resilient livelihoods. Based on our experience, we believe that the following points will improve food and nutrition security among people affected by climate risks and disasters. 1, capacity strengthening of local actors, first responders, and last-mile stakeholders for a nutrition-sensitive response, ensuring that emergency food relief addresses nutrition security as well. In particular, the special dietary needs of vulnerable groups. Second, bringing inclusion at core of all interventions in the last mile. Humanitarian actions identify and protect the interests of the most vulnerable and marginalized groups like women and girls, pregnant and lactating, infants and elderly, or the marginalized livelihood groups such as sharecroppers, landless laborers, small-scale fisherfolks, and others. Third point, improving ex-ante coping capacities of the local communities to reduce disaster risk and minimize dependency on external aid and assistance, and improve climate advisory and early warning systems for all to anticipate, absorb, and adapt to the shocks of disasters. Fourth, support community-based adaptation to reduce climate risk, promote nature-based solutions for DRR and climate change adaptation. And fifth, make social safety nets more adaptive and shock responsive to support at scale relief, recovery, and rehabilitation needs of people affected by disasters. For climate goals, we believe that collective action is the way forward, and we affirm our faith in it. And in this journey, we would like to align, collaborate, and partner with our co-travelers to be more effective and impactful in our work. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Animesh Prakash, for a very structured address. Now, may I request Professor Mahua Mukherjee to please come and share her wisdom on the subject.
Hello, can you hear me? Yeah. Very good evening. I am thankful to the organizers. I am thankful to Dr. Paithankar, Dr. Gupta, to invite me for this interaction. Probably I am the last speaker. I am not going to take a lot of time, but I think you can listen to what I am going to say because I am going to talk about urban agriculture. Why urban agriculture? Only 4 points at least. Because today, entire region, if not the world, already the world has shifted to the urbanization. Our region is also shifting towards the urbanization. So more people are in urban areas, so more people are at risk if there are some certain hazards are happening. So in that case, if the solution is local, then always that should get a priority. So urban agriculture is a priority. Why I am interested into urban agriculture? I come from architecture planning background. I am part of Center of Excellence in Disaster Mitigation Management. I'm also part of South Asia Alliance of Disaster Research Institutes. So I am interested with the urban climate. And urban climate and urban agriculture, they're so very well linked. I will give you only maybe few points about urban climate. Urban heat. Every summer we are reading newspapers. This temperature, that temperature, certain pockets are having very, very high temperature. Nowadays, certain cities are issuing warning. Urban agriculture can take care of it. Second point, microclimate. There are so many other components. I'm picking only one component in the microclimate, air. Air movement, air direction, air purity, air temperature, everything can be modified with our urban agriculture initiative. Carbon sequestration, I will not go for long, I will only go for the pinpointing. Storm water management, water purification, it can take care of it. It can give us lot of good fruits and other vegetables. It can give us a very strong help towards the biodiversity. I think today's children have lost that connect to see, watch butterflies and the flowers. It's a beautiful combination. It really rejuvenates us. So those things it can give us back. So urban climate and urban agriculture, it's a real strong connect. But people have not invited me for that today. You come to my campus, I will talk about what we do with urban climate and this urban agriculture. Here, very briefly, I will talk about two more important points for which I am here today. First thing is nutrition. I am not an expert in that line, but already people have talked about it. All of us, we do understand how varied and individual choices now today's families, today's communities are having about the food and nutrition. Lot of information. You always probably go on experimenting. You can also grow it. If the kitchen is not really on the ground, we don't worry. There are a lot of other options. So nutrition is very important. Even a child, even a young person, students like you, all of us, we are very much aware. And must be at my age, I should be very much aware about it. So nutrition is very, very important, and it's a personal, family, and community choice. Urban agriculture can help us a lot. I'm just giving a very different example probably. Wherever we have that type of local supplies, those cities are so much affordable. I'm just bringing an example of megacity Kolkata. Anyone who travels to Kolkata, they always talk about how affordable it is. Probably we need not to forget the service of the wetland, which sends us the continuous vegetables as well as the fishes, which Bengali people are very fond of. So that is the nutrition part. The experts are here. I'm not going into that. And the third point I would like to come here, that is the most important, how urban agriculture can help us during the disaster. Very quick response. Quantity is available. So why not these urban agricultural initiatives shall be linked, shall be really encouraged. Whatever is required, that needs to be done. And there are so many very good examples. Hungry Pots, I actually got that information from your compilation only, and I really read about it. It's a wonderful initiative. So they can be in the chain. So the producers can be the household owners, and that can be really be commercialized. In the disaster, the time management, food getting, I think all of us, we are maybe for last 15 days watching this tunnel rescue workers, how the food, water is being supplied, even the oxygen. I think all of us, we understand how important food is, because the people who are disaster affected, if later on they should not really be heavy burden on the national economy, food during the time is very important, and urban agriculture can take care of it. So these are the strong points why you should go for urban agriculture. Now I come from Technical Institute, so I would like to give you also another angle that what interventions we need for this urban agriculture. First and foremost, lot of innovation and technology. The scope is there. I was giving you the example of pod. We work a lot on how to really make a kitchen or the roof. It's not very easy to make the roof irrigable, because you have to also think about roof has a structure as well as other purposes, so that below the roof, people should not feel their space has been spoiled. So there are a lot of technical inputs required there. A lot of work has to be done and is being done. You cannot borrow it from US or Germany. It doesn't work. Our construction techniques are different. Our construction people's skills are different. So you have to really work with that. So whether it is kitchen garden, balcony garden, green wall, these are very wonderful initiatives in the urban areas. Aquaponics, maybe someone of you are very much aware. It's not only fish culture, it is also the connected vegetable culture. So wonderful solutions. All of these can be done. So that comes the technical part. Second part is the business. Today's youth, if they would like to be in the formal initiative, formal employment, and that means some government job, then it's going to be really a burden. I think all of us now need to really think about employment very differently. Business opportunity, what urban agriculture can bring, it's tremendous. Small scale, bigger scale. Even that pod I was reading, at least you can give direct employment to 6 men, here in this case it's women, or 8 indirect employment. If one pod can give that, you can simply imagine how we can scale it up. That is very important in today's scenario, not only for our country. Again, I'm talking in the entire region, this population is an issue, especially in urban areas. And the third and last point from my side is community. How it can help community. I'm coming from architecture background, I can give you a wonderful, maybe it's an imagination only. We can have roof gardens, all these things. We can even have a very good restaurant, which is serving all these organic foods. It can be connected. I can have, maybe my cooperative can have a particular secluded area only for those people who are the residents. Other can be open. So many different things can be done. Many urban amenities can be added with this urban agriculture. So I believe urban agriculture need to be really thought as a solution, because as I said, urban agriculture goes with 2 different aspects of urban climate, and there's nutrition, where it can really improve our vulnerability, and when it comes for the disaster resilience, there it can really act as a capacity building. So everything is linked with our risk. So we can really think about giving a chance to urban agriculture in a very different scale. With that, I would like to conclude. Thanks.
Thank you, Professor Mukherjee, for that insightful, motivating, talk about urban farming and rooftop gardening. I can vouch for it, myself being a rooftop gardener, also as a, both in the situations of an independent house. I was a vermicomposter with a cattle in my house as a collector, and also when I shifted to Chennai, I practiced, because there are certain governments which have incentive for this thing. Tamil Nadu is one of them, which gives entire thing with a very subsidized price for a rooftop gardening and the kits, etc. In which, yeah. Yeah, so thank you very much for it. Was very useful, and thank you very much. Any other quick questions we can take? Yes, please. One more mic is there.
And some concepts and some definitions that they themselves are very valuable. But I was looking for some keywords and some, important things that were missed. For example, nobody talked about water, energy, food nexus. When we are talking about agricultural production, we don't consider nexuses. It is fully useless and meaningless. So, since this morning nobody talked about water, energy, food nexus, although there are many other nexuses as well. But it is the most important one, which is directly related to what you people all entirely discussed and talked. Nobody talked about feeding pattern or nutrition pattern. I will tell you that if the Indian people were not mostly vegetarian, then you could know that how difficult was feeding such huge amount of the people. Because now you are getting food adequate food just because your people are mainly vegetarian. But you suppose if you come to my country, who in fact where the people are mainly taking meat, and for producing 1 kg of meat, in fact almost 15 times more of land and water have to be consumed to produce 1 kg of meat, then you could imagine that how difficult it is to feed such huge Thank you. I think I'll take the second question first, because when you really look at sustainable development goals, there are 17 sustainable development goals. But I think the challenge has been that there are 169 targets. And if you really look at the number of indicators, again, it's a huge number of indicators. So when you're actually trying to monitor, so many targets and so many indicators across, so many countries, so I think, we have a huge challenge. So what is measurable, what is quantifiable, and what actually can lead to policy entry points where, we can actually change and do mid-course corrections. And that means that, we need to actually have a smaller number of indicators and smaller number of targets,
May I interfere you? Sure. Exactly, we face same problems. More than 177 indicators were used to assess that how impact, how much we were successful in that case. So it is not practically applicable to go to cloud. So it gives us a message that if you are going to have some global plan, they have to be practically doable.
Yeah, so I will just mention two tools which actually are being used now. We were in the other session with IOM, the International Organization for Migration, and they have a tool which is called Displacement Tracking Metrics. So actually, we would need to look at, and Kerala government has developed a tool called DCAT. DCAT is Disaster Risk Reduction and Climate Action Tracking Tool. So DCAT is basically Disaster and Climate Action Tracking Tool. So that is basically looking at scaled down climate models, which can actually look at a local level with the local panchayats. In India, we deal with the local self-government institutions. So I think what we need to do is to be practical and pragmatic and work with also opportunity for crowdsource feedback. The people need to, because we have actually so many people sitting here. If you start looking at the collective, wisdom and insights of the people from different fields, you need social workers, you need psychologists, you need health specialists, you need nutrition specialists, and you need statisticians, you need modelers, you need people who are actually able to do. So I think, these are all complex problems, which are, sometimes it is also called wicked problems. These are wicked problems which need solutions, which are probably going to come out because of, I think a lot of things depend on leadership of the institutions which are actually doing this. So if you look at the COVID-19, the pandemic, actually, the kind of confusions which were there earlier probably resulted in loss of lives of people, okay? Whether it is airborne, the confusion between WHO and CDC and all that, these are all practical. I'm not criticizing, but I'm also, saying that, it's not fault finding, but, it has to be fact finding. We all need to be factivists, activists who understand and deal with facts. I think that is very important. Thank you. Yeah, the food and SDG connections actually, if you look at all the 17 goals, there are certain relationship between, it's basically like poverty and malnutrition related, like you said about the food, energy, water nexus.
There was a slide in which you have put, the different types of vegetables.
Yeah.
And then
and a few of those SDG goals, which are there. I'll talk to you about that. I'll share that, I'll share the slide with you and also share an explanation as to what is actually meant. Because I think one of the most important challenges right now, we have in India, we have an organization called Niti Aayog. So the Niti Aayog has been having a division which is called the Division for Monitoring and Evaluation. So it's a DMEO, which is a division for monitoring evaluation organization. So data monitoring and evaluation organization. So they have been looking at all the districts of the country, looking at the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. And so we have a status report at the state level, at the district level of how these goals have been performing. So it's basically number crunching and big data analytics, which is actually needed. So we need to really work on those kind of solutions also. Would you like to?
Thank you for the. Is there any other question? Yeah.
No, I'm not neither a reader nor a scholar in food security and all. But given the global challenges, there is a very clear-cut divide between north and south. So we have food wastage and food losses. How do are there any bilateral, multilateral ways to address this? This is point number one. Then there is a conflict between food security and food nutrition. Like to provide food security, we have lost many of the nutritional vegetable varieties, land races. So how do we take this forward?
If I can have a quick response. There's a Lancet, which is a group of most reputed journal. They had called a Lancet Commission on the food, kind of food plate that we have. And they come up with certain recommendations about connection of this whole food and health and these dimensions. And various countries were signatories. I think more than 130 countries have signed that. India is also a signatory to that. So this is not something a UN-driven kind of thing, but also a very important recommendation in the direction that you are telling. Because once you have more rational and that kind of consumption, but now again question comes, as Professor Mukherjee was telling, the food is such an individualistic, culture specific, historically inherited thing, so most challenging to bring about a change in people's, habits. Many times people say that, I have this, or doctors are also say, you have a hereditary problem. You got a diabetes because your father had diabetes. Yes, your grandfather had diabetes. You are having diabetes, it's hereditary. But they forget that it is not the disease which is inherited. Sometimes it is the lifestyle also which you learn and which is undoable. So I think there are a lot of dimension of culture and how their upbringing which lead to the consumption pattern, the way you produce and consume food. So I think it's a very challenging area, but I think we have to work on the school level and young children. If you can make out the change there, I think it is possible. I think we should not lose hope. But there is more need to be done from translating knowledge to bringing about an attitudinal and a lasting behavioral change among our younger generation. As Professor Gupta rightly said, there is so much of advertisement about processed food. But who is going to advertise that spinach is having so much of power? Rather, there is an advertisement about something toothpaste where a teacher says, "Oh, you have palak in your teeth, ghare daant." So there is a demeaning of the raw food. So I think this is how I think somewhere collectively there have to be certain organizations which promote raw food, healthy food, to counter the market forces. I think state has to drive that, multilateral organization has to drive that. FAO and World Food Program should spend more money on advertisement on healthy food so that the demand side of the food production also changes. Thank you. Thank you. The last words of wisdom from Professor Menon or Professor Gupta.
Just quick points. I think it has been very useful discussion today. And few points that equally important is the food safety aspect. Now, so when the plate is full or the food is available, that what quality of food, not only in terms of nutrition, but also the kind of contaminations are going through soil and many things. And during processing, during cooking. The another point that I wanted to bring, that if we take example of India, now diabetes is emerging as the most prominent disease in India. That's kind of a epidemic. That's a kind of epidemic in India, and still lot of emphasis is on growing sugar. So I think the question and answer both are there. The most of the support system is being asked for sugar, growing sugarcane, the buying of sugarcane, this thing, and the processing of sugar, and the prices for sugar. Second aspect, we will find this kind of pockets. For example, the state of Punjab. People don't eat rice, but they grow rice. So if we look at the ecological cycle and the kind of implications it has on the entire ecological system and the bioproductivity system, I think these are also the important determinants when we are looking, we have to look at the future food security. What kind of things are coming, what kind of support systems are coming. So it's a big issue. So not only looking at the narrower dimension, but we'll have to look at a holistic perspective. But certainly region specific, country specific has to be looked. Professor Joshi raised the point of food waste. Not only, Professor Joshi, you would agree that the food waste is not only the problem of other countries. In India also, we'll find this kind of divides. In India, the food wastage is too much. It's too much of food wastage in India at household level, at community level. Say many times the community, dining is there. Even whether it is our hostels or mess or anything. If you just look at the kind of food wastage, maybe it is because of the poor quality cooking or whatever reasons. It is not that tasty. The food is not processed that tasty, and people, the students would not like to eat that. Whatever the reasons, but food wastage in India is also a major problem. So in other developing countries or the countries in transition, also this may be an issue. So I think we'll have to look at all the terrains.
Thank you. Request Professor Menon to give his concluding remarks.
Yeah, just a very brief 1-minute intervention in response to the comment which is about the global divide between the global north and the global south. I think the G20 has actually been having the presidency from Indonesia transferred to India, and then getting transferred now to Brazil, and then going to South Africa. So Indonesia, India, Brazil, South Africa shows that for the last 4 years, actually, 2 years and coming 2 years, for 4 years, Global South is actually having an opportunity to work with not only the Global South, but also influencing the policies and discussions in G77, G7, and also negotiating with other forums and platforms, even in the COP summits, COP28, which is coming up, the discussions which are going to be happening from the 30th in Dubai. So I think there is a whole series of evolution of policy making and negotiations which are happening, whether it is the loss and damage fund or many other things. The South is actually becoming very influential in influencing global thinking. So I think over the years, the transition is actually also happening. And in the field of disaster management also, I'm very happy to say that the UNDP work in India with the UN volunteers and also the UN staff in disaster risk management are working all over the world in many countries in Africa, in Central America, in Europe, and I think they're doing very well in terms of contributing to the work in disaster risk reduction, whether it is with UNDRR or whether it is with UNESCAP, or we find that the the talent from India is actually also contributing. And not only from India, also from many other countries from the global south are contributing in international policy making. And I was very happy to see, so many Indians in WFP, in the World Bank, in GFDRR, in UNICEF, in UNDP, and also IOM and all that. So I think that's also an incredible talent, not only India, but also the developing countries, these global south contributing to the work in terms of, improving the quality of lives of the people. Thank you. Thank you very much.
So if there we can now conclude the session. Thank you for your interest in this session and very exciting questions. Please.
Thank you, sir. May I now request Ms. Pradnya Paithankar ma'am from WFP to propose a formal vote of thanks.
Thank you so much. I think, this was such a wonderful session. I actually am really appreciating the lot of enthusiasm, questions, and great insights from all the panelists. In fact, we all have been talking about the food security and nutrition and various aspects and dimensions of it. This specifically session was designed just to bring the attention of the policymakers, of the practitioners in the disaster, to the food and nutrition security in the entire disaster and emergency preparedness response discourse. So, the dimensions are many. We always talk about whenever there is a disaster or whenever there is an emergency, the first thing that is talked about food security or nutrition is only relief. And the most important and critical aspect is that it is not just relief. It is the relief, response, recovery, and most importantly, preparedness. And bringing the focus on that is something which is extremely important. The second point that actually, maybe I'm emphasizing, which is coming from the panel, is that, one is if you just provide the relief or the compensation of the disasters and compare the cost with the investments which are actually in preparedness, they are much cheaper. So from the perspective of real investment, it is much more cheaper to really invest in capacity building, invest in the preparedness, invest in those kinds of infrastructures or the mechanisms which actually help to have the systems in place, may it be the safety nets, may it be the shock responsive safety nets, or may it be the mechanisms which really work. So from that perspective, it is really again emphasizing the need for looking at food security, not just from the relief angle, but from a wider angle. The third thing, I'm sorry, actually there was a video from my colleague from the regional bureau, who is actually the regional advisor for the DRR and EPR. We couldn't play that video, but I'll just highlight a few points from her interventions, which essentially also emphasized on inclusion. So what is most important is who is most affected and how to find who is most affected. If it's the area which is really known that it is affected, we probably just know that these are the people. But what are the long-term aspects? What is the kind of livelihoods which are lost? And who are the real people? So it is extremely important to really look at the inclusion aspects, the problem of disability, the problem of gender, the problem of the caste, culture, and creed. So in fact, whenever we are really looking at these angles, it's extremely important to look at it from inclusion. So may it be relief, may it be recovery, may it be response, may it be again preparedness. It is extremely important to really look at the inclusion angle, and that is one of the most important criteria. The second important criteria is the nutritional adequacy. So when we are talking about nutrition, we usually focus specifically when it comes to disaster, the practitioners, on the actual quantities, the nutritional basket, the food basket, and all that. They're extremely important, there is no doubt about it. But the very important aspect is also the child nutrition, specifically the breastfeeding during emergencies. And there are these global standards which in fact they need to be customized, contextualized, and really implement to ensure that at all times the people are supported. The women who are actually maybe in trauma because of the shock that she has actually experienced, maybe a cyclone, maybe the house broken, maybe the things have actually completely ruined. So she might be in a trauma, how she can really feed. And that is one angle which is extremely important. And so nutritional adequacy of the response, recovery, preparedness, and relief is something which is extremely important. The third important aspect that I want to highlight is sectoral. Sorry, I'm taking a bit of time, but sectoral coordination, because you cannot really have the relief in vacuum. There has to be multiple stakeholders who really have to work and then really give the response. So the module which in fact we have worked on, it essentially really talks and highlights these aspects and helps to really build the capacities at mainly two levels to make the policymakers aware that these capacities, they do exist or they do need to be strengthened so that actually that can be delivered. And the second is for the communities to really derive those responses. And so from that perspective, we really feel that this actually goes forward, and this discussions in this session today, they actually help to have a kind of policy brief or some kind of mechanisms, recommendations to take forward through the discourse, not just in India. And India, I must say, that has been leading the way for last 2 decades at least in the disaster DRM and DRR portfolio both. And so it will continue to really drive that leadership going forward for other countries and learning from through the South-South cooperation. So having said that, I'll really like to sincerely thank the organizers for allowing us to have this session, and to the NIDM for excellent collaboration. Co-organizing this session was equally challenging as well as equally satisfying. The way we actually are working in this partnership, it has been incredible. We have been learning a lot through the entire partnership. I would really like to thank Dr. Menon for his keynote address. I think whenever we listen to him, it's always a kind of guidance and providing a lot of information as well as encouragement and motivation. So thank you so much, Dr. Menon. The opening remarks by Nozomi, of course, actually helped us lay foundation. WFP has been actually working through the government or with the government, and we are actually not really claiming that we are making huge difference, but whatever small contributions we are making, we are really trying to catalyze the systems and see what best can be done for the communities and for the systems. And Nozomi's address really highlighted that. I'd like to really thank Dr. Ratnu, who had been the inspiration. There was just one meeting, and then we really thought that this session can be really conceptualized, and he has been there, and we are sure that under his guidance, this module will take a shape and will travel a long way within the NIDM systems. So thank you so much, Dr. Ratnu. NIDM team led by Dr. Gupta, then Dr. Sushma and Kopil and others. We have been, it has been really a pleasure working with all of you. Dr. Mahua Mukherjee, I think it was like just one small conversation, and it was quite, we actually really thought that it really made sense. And so thank you so much for coming, and thanks for your patience today. I know it was a slightly bad day, it is quite delayed, but thank you so much for your insights. Animesh, of course, is a great friend, and of course, ex-colleague, but he has been really having a kind of passion, which I have seen always, with which he really drives the things. And I am happy that, Animesh, you could make it, because it was he with whom we had conceptualized the initial drafts and had started working about it. He was instrumental in actually bringing out that MEGP, which was more about really documenting the case studies in South Asia and Pacific region around food and nutrition security. So thank you so much. I can't really thank more for this August audience. You have been incredible. I can see that it is already almost 7 and you are still sitting here and listening to this. So thank you so much for your commitment, and thanks to everyone, including organizers and all. Thank you so much.
आदिकाल से उत्तराखंड की धरती विश्व को सही मार्ग दिखाती आ रही। कभी ऋषि मुनियों के ज्ञान से, कभी योग के प्रकाश से और कभी धर्म के विचार से। आज पूरा विश्व जलवायु परिवर्तन और ग्लोबल वार्मिंग से होने वाली आपदाओं से जूझ रहा है। तो उनसे लड़ने के सही मार्ग को खोजने के लिए उत्तराखंड सरकार 6th वर्ल्ड कांग्रेस ऑफ डिजास्टर मैनेजमेंट का आयोजन कर रही है। आखिर आपदा से जूझना और उससे जीतना हमसे बेहतर कौन जानता है। नमस्कार, धन्यवाद। आदिकाल से उत्तराखंड की धरती विश्व को सही मार्ग दिखाती आ रही। कभी ऋषि मुनियों के ज्ञान से, कभी योग के प्रकाश से और कभी धर्म के विचार से। आज पूरा विश्व जलवायु परिवर्तन और ग्लोबल वार्मिंग से होने वाली आपदाओं से जूझ रहा है। तो उनसे लड़ने के सही मार्ग को खोजने के लिए उत्तराखंड सरकार 6th वर्ल्ड कांग्रेस ऑफ डिजास्टर मैनेजमेंट का आयोजन कर रही है। आखिर आपदा से जूझना और उससे जीतना हमसे बेहतर कौन जानता है। नमस्कार, धन्यवाद।
मुख्य सेवक उत्तराखंड आइए और 6th वर्ल्ड कांग्रेस ऑन डिजास्टर मैनेजमेंट में सम्मिलित हों और आपदा प्रबंधन में भागीदार बने। नमस्कार, मैं हूं पुष्कर सिंह धामी, मुख्य सेवक उत्तराखंड। आइए और 6th वर्ल्ड कांग्रेस ऑन डिजास्टर मैनेजमेंट में सम्मिलित हों और आपदा प्रबंधन में भागीदार बने। नमस्कार, मैं हूं पुष्कर सिंह धामी, मुख्य सेवक उत्तराखंड। आइए और 6th वर्ल्ड कांग्रेस ऑन डिजास्टर मैनेजमेंट में सम्मिलित हों और आपदा प्रबंधन में भागीदार बने। नमस्कार, मैं हूं पुष्कर सिंह धामी, मुख्य सेवक उत्तराखंड। आइए और 6th वर्ल्ड कांग्रेस ऑन डिजास्टर मैनेजमेंट में सम्मिलित हों और आपदा प्रबंधन में भागीदार बने। नमस्कार, मैं हूं पुष्कर सिंह धामी, मुख्य सेवक उत्तराखंड। आइए और 6th वर्ल्ड कांग्रेस ऑन डिजास्टर मैनेजमेंट में सम्मिलित हों और आपदा प्रबंधन में भागीदार बने। नमस्कार, मैं हूं पुष्कर सिंह धामी, मुख्य सेवक उत्तराखंड। आइए और 6th वर्ल्ड कांग्रेस ऑन डिजास्टर मैनेजमेंट में सम्मिलित हों और आपदा प्रबंधन में भागीदार बने। नमस्कार, मैं हूं